Hello everybody out there watching on YouTube, and welcome to Chase Race number 2 / race number 28 of Season 3 NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series. I'm Levi McIntyre, the voice of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series, here to welcome you to the LENOX Industrial Tools 300 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We're getting set for 42 laps of racing here at what is known as the Magic Mile, and it is going to be quite interesting, to say the very least. But with that being said, however, before we look at the lineup, let's look and see how the chase points look after last week at Arizona. After all of the chaos, but also great racing, Matt McIntyre leads the point standings by 5 points over Dylan Jacobs, 10 points over James Qualls and Charles Sanford, 15 points over Paul Minnick, 16 points over Joshua Sekuli, 19 points over Benjamin Miles, 24 points over Rafael LeDuc, 25 points over the pole sitter for today, Austin LaPlante, 27 points over Chris Dollerton, 32 points over David Rivera, and then last, 38 points back, is James McLeod. So with that said, let's look at the starting lineup. Starting in the last row are two chasers, David Rivera and Benjamin Miles. Top 10, we have Austin LaPlante on the pole. Starting next to him is Dylan Young. Row 2 is Zachary Fitzwater and James Qualls. Row 3 is Dorian Facepuncher Sean Galligan. Row 4 is Jake Baskinger and Dougie Shears. And then row 5, Emmanuel Hartnett and Chris Michaels. With that said, let's get the command to fire engines for the LENOX Industrial Tools 300 at New Hampshire.
Drivers, start your engines!
So all the cars and the drivers are going out on the racetrack for their one pace lap. So this is going to be a bit of an unknown for some drivers, but for some drivers who had been racing on this YouTube channel since the very beginning, will know what it's like to go around this racetrack. And from what I recall, years ago when this channel was taken off with the NR content, I remember we raced here at New Hampshire quite a few times, and it was either Wreckfest or Domination Fest, but since we did some testing, we might be in for an interesting race here in New Hampshire. The pace car is in pit road, which means it is time to boogity 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 go racing. Well, it was Austin LaPlante who led the first lap. Dylan Young still hangs in the second spot. Qualls moving up to third, and so far we have seen, as we're going to go to the mile per hour rating, and it looks like it will be the outside lane that gets the bigger run off of turn 4. But we'll see how it is here off of turn 2 as we're going to watch the 91 and the 17, and it's It's still the outside lane, so pretty much if you're on the outside, you're going to get the run off the corner. As we can see here between these two, the 83 and the 44. The bottom lane actually managed to get a bit of a run off, so it's like as the runs go on, we'll see which lane really has the advantage. And right now it looks like it's going to be the bottom now, since we're getting some rubber on the racetrack, some grip. Now the bottom lane's going to start kicking in for some drivers. So early on in a run, it's going to be the outside lane, but then as the run continues, it will be the bottom that's what's going to get the big run. As I see, the field has gotten separated a little bit. I don't know what happened here, but closest battle we got on track right now is for third. Dougie Shears has been working his way up to the front, position by position, ever since the drop of the green flag. He just went by Sean Galligan and Chris Michaels. Now he's trying to clear the 70 James Qualls, and he does, so he moves up to third and has reeled in the top two, Dylan Young and Austin LaPlante. And this racetrack is somewhat of a home track for a couple of drivers in this field, Austin LaPlante being from the Northeast. Same with Chris Michaels right there in the 17 car, being a native of Boston, and this is the closest racetrack to Boston. So we got a couple of New England natives up here in this race towards the front of the field. LaPlante so far has been leading every lap so far, but Dougie Shears not far behind, and then he might be actually going for the lead as he's got a run. Here comes the 83 of Dougie Shears. LaPlante tries to dive it in on the outside, but Shears is hanging in tough. LaPlante still hangs on for now, but we're going to see Shears get the run here on the bottom lane here in the turn 1 and 2. And the 83 is clear of the 48. New leader, the 83 of Dougie Shears. Dylan Young starting to reel back in the top two. Same with even James Qualls as he finds himself in fourth for the time being. And Chris Michaels hanging in strong in the top 5 and 5th for now. But Emmanuel Hartnett's starting to come in right behind the 17, but the 17 moves to the bottom. But we got a battle going for second. Dylan Young trying to go for it underneath the 48 of LaPlante. And he's got the run, but it's still the outside that gets it at the line. But we'll see here going in the 1 and 2. The 2 will get the bigger run off the corner. Let's see. And no, LaPlante is starting to hang in strong on the outside. Let's see what happens here as we go to helicopter view. And Dylan Young's still not quite clear of the 48, so now it's starting to look like almost like the outside's still trying to hang on. But the bottom lane's still getting the bigger runs now, so now Dylan Young finally clears the 48 of Austin LaPlante, and that was exactly what the 83 of Dougie Shears wanted to see, was to see those guys battle it out behind them, and now he's pulled away to a big lead. In fact, he's now pulled away to over a second, over second place being Dylan Young. And look at Chris Michaels coming underneath fellow New England native Austin LaPlante for third. As we're seeing some great racing towards the front of the field, just not up here for the lead. And I see 3 wide back there. I'm actually going to go back there and watch that. And what a move by the 9 of Paul Minnick. Clears Matt McIntyre, the points leader, and Dylan Poteet, and I don't know what position that would be. Looks like it'd be around the 15th, 16th mark. As we got quite a few chasers racing right in this range outside the top 10. Dylan Jacobs in front of 2 of those chasers, Chris Dollerton and Paul Minnick. And Dylan Jacobs comes into this race 5 points behind the points lead. And right now he's got 3 drivers in between himself and Matt McIntyre, so he'll gain right now 3 points, but that could all change in an instant. Back up at the front, the margin of lead continues to grow for the 83 of Dougie Shears to 1.6 seconds. Dylan Young's starting to pull away a little bit from Austin LaPlante, and that's because Chris Michaels has been trying to figure out a way around the 48, but just can't get that run in properly. But now he's going to have the bottom here in turns 1 and 2. Let's see what he's got. Michaels hanging in strong, but so is LaPlante. And also right behind them is Hardnett trying to get clear of the 42 of Kyle Keefe, but just can't quite make it stick. Off of turn 4, Chris Michaels gets the advantage at least at the line. Hardnett clears the 42 of Kyle Keefe, so that was a case of the outside working for the 20 of Hardnett. But Chris Michaels now finally clears the 48 of Austin LaPlante for the 3rd spot. And look at Hardnett, he's starting to work his way up again. Dylan Young now falls to 2.3 seconds behind Dougie Shears. It's almost like ever since there was that big fight for second, Dougie Shears has just been taking full advantage of that and has just been pulling away with bigger margins lap by lap. And speaking of battles, Emmanuel Hardnett has not given up on trying to get around Austin LaPlante, and that is a battle for 4th. Up here, battle goes on for 2nd. Chris Michaels underneath Dylan Young, and Michaels got a little bit tight in the middle of the corner, nearly got up into the 2, and luckily the 2 had enough I don't know what would be the word for it, to move up to keep that from happening. And now some of the cars are coming in the pit road, and even the leader, Dougie Shears, went in the pit road. So some pit strategy right before we got to the halfway point of the race. This is really going to make something interesting happen when we get towards the end of the race when it comes to pit strategy. Some cars pitted a lap before the halfway point. Some cars are electing to stay out at the halfway point, and Emmanuel Hardnett's going to stay out. And I think he's the only one that's staying out. And indeed, that is the case. Although maybe David Rivera, no, he's coming in. So yeah, only one driver stayed out under all that, and that's Emmanuel Hardnett right at the halfway point. So I got a feeling we're going to see a lot of close calls as far as fuel goes. And Dougie Shears, oh, Shears makes contact on pit road, and Hardnett didn't even get to have his pit stop. That's going to really shake things up. I think Shears came in a second time, so that's going to cost the 83 potentially the race lead, and the 20 of Emmanuel Hardnett, it looked like he didn't get to have his pit stop. He just got in for a second, they told him no go, and I think the caution's out. Chris Michaels is into the wall. Holy moly, that's going to really make things interesting now. Forget about a green flag run to the end. Caution comes out for the first time for damage on the 17 of Chris Michaels, and there was nearly contact between Jay Jefferson and Trent Dunham. Although I see Sean Galligan on pit road, could that have been another car involved? Could have been contact between him and the 17, or is he just coming out of pit road? I'm thinking he's just coming out of pit road. But I don't even know who's considered a race leader. And I can't really tell as Preston Plord is slowed. I think the field is still trying to get cycled around properly. So we have no idea as to who the race leader is. And I see a buckle on the front end of Chris Dollarton's machine. That's going to be big, depending on if he's going to be up to speed or not. Oh, and I think Yeah, because Galligan and Hardnett, I don't think, managed to get into their pit stalls properly to have their pit stops. They ran out of gas. So I think if everything gets cycled around properly, perhaps the 19 of Carson Gum could be the race leader, but they're showing the 2 of Dylan Young as the next car up there. Where's Kyle Keith? Because they're showing him scored as the leader. Dollarton's out of gas, same with Jay Jefferson. A lot of confusion. And some more cars coming in the pit road, so we got no idea as to who the race leader is going to be. But while we wait to find out, let's go ahead and take a look at the replay of what brought the caution out for the first time today here at New Hampshire. Well, here's a look at what happened. And Chris Michaels, how he's going to get into it is watch the 18 of Jake Baskinger and James Qualls. It looked like the 18 and the 70 made contact, and they come right back up in front of Chris Michaels, turns him hard into the outside wall. And look at Peachy London. Just a little side swipe, but still keeps on going. I don't know if that's going to affect his performance or not. But let's look at this one more time just to double check. So the 18 of Jake Baskinger and the 70 of James Qualls get together coming off pit road up into Chris Michaels. And Chris Michaels goes hard passenger side first into the outside wall, about 2 or 3 wheels up off the ground. So that goes to show you how hard of an impact that was for the 17. But the 17's still out on the racetrack for now. But I got a feeling he's going to be off the pace. So we're going to go ahead and take you to the restart and find out who is the leader here at New Hampshire. So after that last caution, 3 cars retired out of the race for no fuel. Man, it is weird. This season has been the weirdest year for pit stops as far as running out of gas, and it forces you out of the race. And 3 of those drivers are done for having no fuel for some reason. Emmanuel Hartnett, Preston Plord, and the early dominant car, Dougie Shears, goes from first to last after all that took place. But we got a massive scoring error, so the guys in front of the leader are hoping for a quick caution so they can cycle back around properly. But Kyle Keith is your race leader. Second is Austin LaPlante. Third, Dylan Poteet. Fourth is Jake Baskinger. Fifth, James Qualls. Sixth, Zachary Fitzwater. Seventh, DJ Curtis. Eighth, Anthony McCrory. Ninth, Dylan Jacobs. 10th, Johnny Gardner. 11th, Benjamin Miles. 12th, Rafael LeDuc. 13th, Matt McIntyre. 14th, Charles Sanford. 15th, Dylan Young. 16th, Paul Minnick. 17th, Peachy London. 18th, Seth Cole. 19th, Trent Dunham. 20th is Jay Jefferson. And everyone else that's in the race are all ahead of the leaders, still on the lead lap. We won't go through them all because we don't have time. But anyways, back up here at the front, Kyle Keith has the lead, but Dylan Poteet already went by Austin LaPlante for second, and now he's got a huge run for the lead. But the 18 of Jake Baskinger goes into pit road. Could be strategy, or it could be stupidity on his part. But we got a new leader, and that's Dylan Poteet, as he's starting to put a lot of cars a lap down, as he's underneath 3 wide of Tim Fiegel and a bunch of other cars. Man, look at the run, and I think most of that happened because the 17, as you can tell, is off the pace slightly. Oh, and we got a crash! Oh, multi-car accident! I saw Rafael LeDuc was in it. Dylan Young was in it. That might have been the caution for some of these cars. But Rafael LeDuc for sure done. Johnny Gardner with damage. Dylan Young was involved, and I know Peachy London was in it, so big multi-car accident to put us under caution for the second time here at New Hampshire, as we're going to go ahead and take a look and see what brought the caution out for the second time today here in the LENOX Industrial Tools 300 at New Hampshire. So all this starts when there was 3 wide going on between Paul Minnick, Rafael LeDuc, and Johnny Gardner. There was no contact between the 9 and the 99, but the 99 was trying to give room to the 9 of Paul Minnick and came up into Johnny Gardner, who comes down and collects Dylan Young and Peachy London, as the 2 took a pretty hard lick into the outside wall and ended up on 2 to 3 wheels. And the 99 took a hard impact, as we're going to watch his hit one more time, as he came up trying to give room, hard on the wall, actually up on all fours. And then Dylan Young, look at this hit, up on two wheels. Peachy London hit pretty significantly hard. He got up in the air for a quick second. But yeah, big 4-car accident as a result of the 99 of Rafael Leduc trying to give room 3 wide going into turn 3, and it just completely backfired on him and took himself and 3 other cars out of the race. And that's the second week in a row the 99 has run into trouble. So his mulligan might have been used up here at New Hampshire. But let's go ahead and take you to the restart once again here at New Hampshire. Well, after that last caution, 3 cars retired out of the race after that multi-car accident, and they include Dylan Young, Johnny Gardner, and Rafael Leduc. And we got several cars a lap down, but most of those cars that were in front of the leaders under that last caution managed to cycle back around. So, the running order as it stands now, Dylan Poteet is your race leader. Second, though, is all the way back here in Kyle Keefe. So Kyle Keefe's going to have a long battle to try and get up to the leader, which I don't know how he can pull it off. Third is Austin LaPlante. Fourth, Zachary Fitzwater. Fifth, DJ Curtis. Sixth, Anthony McCrory. Seventh, Dylan Jacobs. Eighth, Benjamin Miles. Ninth, Matt McIntyre. 10th, Paul Minnick. 11th is Charles Sanford. 12th is Seth Cole. 13th, Jay Jefferson. 14th, Trent Dunham. 15th, Peachy London. 16th, Sean Galligan. 17th, Carson Gum. 18th, Dylan Thoreau. 19th, Jake Rogers. 20th, William Brock. And then it's Chris Dollerton, Mark Lane, Phil Parker, James Qualls, David Rivera, Jake Baskinger, Jessica Sheldon, Joshua Collard, and Zach Flickinger on the lead lap. And everyone else that's running is a lap down, and we're back underway. Going to try and focus on the 42 and the 48 because they're second and third, but they are so far behind Dylan Poteet since there was a good amount of lap cars in between them. And, oh, I saw 3 wide, and I thought I saw contact. Oh, there was nearly, oh, man. Okay, they settled it out. I thought they were going to pull off what Leduc and Gardner had earlier, but they settled it out in a close call. Very close call, to say the very least. But now some of these lead lap cars are being held up by the 17 of Chris Michaels. So this could spell disaster for a lot of drivers. And I see Dylan Jacobs is held up, LaPlante's held up, and JT Bryan are the ones. Those are the 3 being held up. And that's costing a lot of spots for a lot of different drivers. Meanwhile, Poteet has to thank the scoring errors for having those lap cars in between himself and second place because he has been pulling away. Let's see the margin now. Nearly 3 seconds, and right now second is Zachary Fitzwater, but he's still got a couple more lap cars to go through if he's going to get clear. And then you see Tim Fiegel and Jonathan Zorlin are actually catching Dylan Poteet a little bit, so maybe they can cause a little bit of a ruckus to the 31 and help the 91 of Zachary Fitzwater, who has almost cleared the lap cars, to see if he can't catch him. But Fitzwater still lost a half of a second on that last lap because of that, so he now drops to 3 1/4 seconds behind Poteet. So if he's going to have any chance in hell of catching the 31 of Poteet, he's going to have to put the pedal to the metal and hope the 8 and the 88 can get to the 31 and cause a shakeup. But on that last lap, Fitzwater was a little bit faster than Poteet, so maybe that's a sign. Fiegel was actually faster than the 31, but I don't know if it's going to be enough time for anything major to happen. You'd have to hope for a miracle for something big to happen at the front of the field, but the margin now extends actually to almost 3.4 seconds. Meanwhile, Anthony McCrory hangs on right now in third, and right behind him is Paul Minnick, and Paul Minnick currently is the highest running chaser, and he wants to keep on going as he's coming underneath for third, but man, that run McCrory had for the time being. Let's see if the 61 does clear him, and I think, yeah, he does have him cleared. So now the outside lane's starting to kick in again here in this run. But yeah, right now, Minnick, oh, the 61 and the 91 come into pit road. Oh, this is going to really make things interesting. I was thinking we were going to have something like this happen. Poteet stays out. Minnick actually stayed out too, but he got slowed up because of the 61 slowing down in front of him. Let's watch the 31 of Poteet. Is he going to come in? No, he's not. He's going to try and risk it. White flag waves here in New Hampshire as some cars pitted and some cars didn't. Who's currently second? It is still Paul Minnick in second place. I think now third is Galligan in the points leader. Matt McIntyre gets up to fourth. Benjamin Miles, another chaser, up to fifth. But the checkered flag waves as a crash happened, but Dylan Poteet wins the LENOX Industrial Tools 300 in New Hampshire as something happened between Joshua Collard and Charles Sanford at the end of the race, as they got into it somehow, some way, but it don't matter because the race is over. Dylan Poteet gets his first win, I believe, this season here at New Hampshire. Poteet going to take a victory lap. Fiegel and Zorling still going to drive out with him. But man, what a performance by the 31 at the end of that race. And let's look at the rest of the results. The highest scoring chaser, and Poteet was one extra, 1.5 lap to the good, as I hear the motor just stopped, so he just ran out. But the highest scoring chaser was Paul Minnick, who finished in second. Great run for the 9. He definitely needed a solid run to get himself higher up in the championship, and I think he could move up to the top 3 potentially. Sean Galligan comes through, finishing in the 3rd spot. Points leader Matt McIntyre, I think, will still be the points leader as he finishes out in 4th. Benjamin Miles, a much needed good finish in the 5th position. The highest finishing rookie, Jake Rogers, in 6th. Carson Gum, great run in the 7th spot, and a great run for Jay Jefferson in 8th. Seth Cole comes through 9th, and then Trent Dunham rounds out the top 10. Rest of the cars that finished on the lead lap, as, whoa, teleportation out of nowhere for Tim Fiegel. The rest of the cars that finished on the lead lap were Dylan Thoreau, Chris Dollerton, Jake Baskinger, Jessica Sheldon, Zach Flickinger, and Pichu London. Everybody else finished a lap or more down, and they were Joshua Collard, Tim Fiegel, Jonathan Zorling, Dorian Facepuncher, Joshua Sekuli, Anthony McCurry, Zachary Fitzwater, Phil Parker, JT Bryant, Kyle Keith, Austin LaPlante, DJ Curtis, William Brock, Chris Michaels, James Qualls, Dylan Jacobs, Mark Lane, David Rivera, and James McLeod. Everybody else was retired out of the race after the wreck, and Charles Sanford, who wrecked at the very end of the race. Dylan Young, Johnny Gardner, Rafael Leduc, Emmanuel Hartnett, Preston Blord, and Dougie Shears. Well, that does it for our coverage here today here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway for the LENOX Industrial Tools 300. Next week, we return to Armory Digital Super Speedway for the Taco Bell Doritos 500. But until then, here are your results, rookie points, and regular points heading into Armory Digital. And this is Levi McIntyre, signing off.